Mic check 1 2 1 2. Yeah. What we're going to start on this time. This is talking about the conflict between Russia and USA. And what I talked about a couple of recordings ago about that. And what I'll go on about this is, what I've been talking about. And, first of all, I'll clear the non-biased thing. As I said, first of all, I'm like a judge in the court, right? I look at both sides. And if it was the other way round, then I'd be talking what I'm about to talk about on the other behalf. I got love for both countries, both continents, all the world anyway. So, but you know what I'm talking about in this, about USA versus Russia and that. You know what's going on and the possible war, if that's the way you want to see it, even though it will be World War III. As I said, referring briefly back to, like all the things behind Israel's connections, CIA, everyone's connections to 9/11, being an inside job first of all. And, the history, with that, and then compared to Russia. And, what I'll lead on to this, I'm going to keep this recording as short as possible and just clearly put this across. What I left on my post on Facebook, that's what I just analysed from memory. And, this is to do with the Rothschilds and, like the central banks and stuff in the world. And, the history with, why Russia has always been, a target since I think it was the Cold War and mainly. And, after that and all the conflicts that I've had because, something I remembered to do with the Rothschilds. I think it was Stalin. This is what a memory what sprang up when I, just from coincidence, to do with Stalin. Basically, what I put on the video is basically he, at the time, I think that was Second World War, my history is not too good. It was something to do around that time. And basically the Rothschilds were having problems with Russia and Stalin trying to basically put a Federal Reserve, whatever you want to call it, central bank into Russia, into Russia's economy. And, a lot of things, a conflict rose from that. And, I know there's a central bank there now, but, at the time, that was this is where we clear Russia's name, first of all, and where all this stuff started. Because, Russia were basically, and Stalin, he was, fighting against the Rothschilds, putting a central bank in Russia. And, that caused a lot of conflict. And, based on, central banks and that, and, America being the first place, think of the two biggest countries or continents in the world, and, USA, Russia, you think of those. And, when you think about population and money control, if you put a private bank in a highly populated country, Russia or America, two big countries, obviously the more people, more taxes, more money. And that there's a reason why, Russia, was a target for the first time, when Stalin was refusing, to let the Rothschilds put there. That's what I just put for starters on that. This is from history as well. And you can look at it yourself. As I said, this was a memory that sprung just from seeing something. What led me onto this. What I put on this post, leading on, I'll just follow through of what I've been talking about anyway. I'm going to keep this recording as short as possible anyway, but what I talk on this as well, basically it was around, as I said, it's not official document, but I have a few on Google, but what I saw backdated to 2012, maybe 2008, can't remember, is, President Putin, he was basically saying at the time about, having the Rothschilds, who were known as the, richest family, the elites, Illuminati, arrested and, arrested and charged for their crimes and stuff like that. And what led from that, and this is more from official stories, is, not long after, basically, like the West, the Americans and that, they've been trying to overthrow Putin and that, basically overthrow Russia and control that. And, their connections, what I've talked about, Israel, Rothschilds and that, you start seeing the patterns start to work on that. And, also, what came from memory as well, President Putin back in probably 2007 is somewhere around that. You know, some kind of conference which I put on the video as well, where he was basically speaking out about the New World Order and the plan for this global agenda at some conference in Russia. You know, as soon as that man, you know, did that, I guarantee, you know, because, you know, as I said, Rothschilds, you've never heard of them if you've ever watched the mainstream media anywhere, unless you've done research. And when, you know, this man says, look, there's a New World Order plan of a global agenda of Rothschilds and all these people who are planning to do it. You know, these elitists, the Rothschilds, richest family shadow government. You know, when they hear him say that, they're obviously going to have a problem. Because, you know, referring to, I think it was Henry Kissinger or something, he said himself, you know, that what he was talking about, he said there's a powerful, you know, a very big, powerful force controlling America, and anyone who speaks out against it is part of that government. You know, they'll be eliminated. And, you know, basically that's what Vladimir Putin did on that video. You know, he spoke out against it, you know, in front of Russia, I know, but it's been put across YouTube. And, you know, as soon as he mentions them, you know, he becomes an enemy when you think about it. Because, you know, he's mentioned that they run the world. And since then, you know, I noticed that a lot of problems started, as I said, what led from there, you know, what was being said, and the central bank of Russia itself was mentioned there, you know, something to do with, you know, they're trying to overthrow him and, you know, take him out of power, Russia. And that's always been the plan, because referring back to Stalin, where the problems started with this, with them trying to put a central bank there, you know, obviously they've always had problems, probably why the Cold War started and stuff like that, you know. You know, and that was near enough for World War. That was going to be nuclear weapons and stuff. So that would have been, you know, what's going to happen again. Because, you know, that's what I can see this World War III being. It's just like the Cold War style thing again, you know. But this time it will be weapons of mass destruction and that being used. They won't be stopped. You know what, leading on from this as well, you know, I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible, but, you know, to do with, you know, the Ukraine incident with the, you know, the plane that was shot down by missiles, and, you know, what came from that, you know, even though it wasn't on mainstream media for reasons, but, you know, basically what the story was, and you can do your research in this, is there was a plane flying over the Ukraine at the same time in a very similar flight path as President Putin's presidential plane, you know, in the same, you know, near enough the same area, and what it was said to be, with good reason, attempted assassination of Vladimir Putin. You know, you got to ask yourself why, you know, put these things together, why are they so eager to take this man out? Because to me that says they found, you know, a way to take him out as soon as he left the, you know, Russian airspace and that, and, you know, basically it was a failed attempted assassination. And when you're hearing, you know, that basically they've been trying to overthrow him in the first place, and, you know, that they seem to be having difficulty, which will lead on to why. There's a lot of things to that when you think about it. You know, when they have to assassinate someone. You know, referring back to, you know, that Henry Kissinger quote where it says about the powerful people. Well, you know, Vladimir Putin isn't like, first of all, he's living in a, you know, probably the US's most powerful, you know, like the US's most powerful opposition, you know, like military style, you know, why there's going to be a war, because they're not, first of all, and it's not like, you know, like a congressman or whatever, or ex-spook or whatever, or said to, you know, like Secret Service as a president, so it's not going to be easy for them to take out. So yeah, it makes you wonder why, you know, coincidentally, his plane was flying in this, you know, the same area, you know, when this plane got shot down over the Ukraine and stuff, because, you know, it tells me a lot when you connect the dots and that. I'm just following on from, you know, this is going to be as short as possible, and I'll leave everything on here, what I've been talking about. But, you know, if you when you're listening to this and you can't, you know, connect the dots already from what I'm saying, then I don't know what I can, what I can put across to you. I'm just going through with what else I've got. Just hold on with me here. Right, it's going to be as short as possible, so following on from that, basically, hold on, I'm just scanning through what I said. I think I'm nearly finished anyway, but there's a lot of things connecting that, the dots already, and that another thing, it will be known, for China and North Korea to be, on the side of Russia in this World War III, whereas the UK and whoever else is NATO on on the US's side in this war. So obviously Russia's going to need backup as well, in a world war, because it's like powers of the country uniting as armies against each other. So it makes sense, but why? Ask yourself why the two oppositions that are actually in conflict all the time is US and Russia. As I said, Vladimir Putin, Barack Obama were the ones who are having the conflict, and it's always in the news if it's mentioned, never, like China and that, or the UK. So why is Russia always mentioned? Because it's the main target, it's the main reason. Because as I said, the only country in the world that has spoke out against, this shadow government, that you never hear of, Rothschilds, richest family in the world, is Russia, Vladimir Putin. There's a reason behind that. And, basically, as I said, he's basically made himself a target because he's mentioned them. And also, tying in with, like the Syria and Ukraine conflict again. Who's always having conflicts? Vladimir Putin was, basically arming what the US's opposition was in Syria and Ukraine, and they're always, he's basically making it difficult for those people that he mentions.
Talk about peace, but endorse war. They say it's equality, they ignore the poor. Do anything to ensure your mind stays away from the truth. The simple solution is very much the youth. Keep us busy with equations of dates that we're never gonna use, and tell us we're mentally ill if we fall or confused. Label us with a letter that dictates our worth, and subsequently depicts how much we can earn. We're all different, we're still tested with the same exam. Maybe you can understand why I'm so damn mad. The teachers have become sheep and follow even if we're misled. Open your eyes, look around, apply common sense. Only then can you hope to move forward. How long is it before there's another Hitler giving new orders? Stuck in our ways, reluctant to change. Nothing to gain if we function the same. Border is stuck in our ways, reluctant to change. There's nothing to gain if we function the same. Border is stuck in our ways, reluctant to change. There's nothing to gain if we function the same. Border is stuck in our ways, reluctant to change. There's nothing to gain if we function the same. Border apocalypse.
I want you to get back. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the attrition and the inflation and the Russians and the crying in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get back. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
World apocalypse, I'm gaining confidence. It's marvelous. We can across continents with no consequence. Ominous with no armistice. Should I run through overtime like Israelis with Palestine? They should resign, but I just corrupted. They get it. Found what peace and love is. And now I'm tired of no movement. Humans are gruesome like mutant. Israelis gathering terror, gunfire and gods for amusement. What commas coming? You rude bitch. I'm shouting because I just want to prove you. Refugees, we're riding and we don't really care, man. To be honest, this shit isn't really fair, man. I just wanna lock myself in the land, man, and shout loud enough to break the air, man. The fuck am I saying? There was never peace, only closed-minded people blaming terrorism on the Middle East. We got poor living in the streets, and we got greedy ass people having feet. No matter how much aggression I let out, the fame will only be spreading these sellouts. Fuck the greedy, chemical weapons, giving children leukemia. And there's no cure for cancer. Nah, that's nigga, that's just the media. Innocence are getting killed and no one gives a damn. The ignorance of taking business on the fingernails.
change. There's nothing to gain if we function the same. Boredom stuck in our ways. Reluctant to change. There's nothing to gain if we function the same. Boredom stuck in our ways. Reluctant to change. There's nothing to gain if we function the same. Boredom stuck in our ways. Reluctant to change. There's nothing to gain if we function the same.
If you want to talk about Illuminati, if you want to talk about secret societies, you don't have to go into
the elitist and that Rothschild. And, you know, he just pisses him off more to the point that they try to take him out. So, yeah, you know, when you connect the dots, because, you know, all you have to do is, like, analyse and that, and look back to that and see when, you know, when things started getting hectic between the US and Russia in the first place. And it was when he mentioned, you know, the Rothschilds and stuff like that, you know, talked about the New World Order. That was around 2007, the videos were uploaded. His conference and that, and you know what it's like for anyone who does, who's basically, you know, known, and that if anyone speaks out against them and they're, you know, they're known and they get heard, you know, if it's a president of Russia, you know, obviously they know that is going to be listened to, and is a leader, a political leader, you know, people are going to listen to him. They're not going to think I was talking bullshit, and so, you know, it's basically pissed them off, and that's why they're trying to do it. You know, if I was famous, as I said, I don't know if I am, or known, and I had a lot of people listen to me, I'd be the same. I'd be a target. Because, you know, like, as I said, it as an example, and I was saying this to myself last night, you know, the funny thing is, you know, basically if a political leader, and, you know, it would argue with Vladimir Putin, but leave that aside for now. But, you know, basically the argument against conspiracy theorists and then political leaders like me, you know, say David Icke or someone said, you know, 7/7 was an inside job. I've got all the evidence here. This is why this makes sense and that. And he puts a lot of input into it. And then David Cameron says the next day, you know, these are just lies. You know, this is how bad the UK population and a lot of populations are brainwashed, that, you know, if that political leader says it, suddenly, you know, everyone is like, oh okay. The Prime Minister said, you know, it's not true, that's it. He doesn't give reasons or backup or evidence to it. You know, they ignore David Icke or someone who puts all that evidence together, you know, and explains it, but they rather listen to the person who just says it's not true. And, you know, with Vladimir Putin, well, that's a different story. Because, you know, there's a reason, as I said, there's a reason with him, you know, that suddenly, you know, it's just noticing from analysing, from when, as soon as he mentioned in that conference, there is a plan for a new world order, a global agenda from, you know, basically a power, you know, and power that no one knows about. And then suddenly Russia started, you know, getting targeted to the point that there's basically NATO forces and that, you know, already on their borders waiting to attack. You know, we can refer to JF Kennedy as well. You know, that man was assassinated all of a sudden. You know, he was talking about something along those lines. And he basically just says something about before he leaves the office. And that, you know, about, you know, a secret that the American public don't know about. And then all of a sudden, you know, he was assassinated. All of a sudden, you know, going on one of those parades or whatever it was, you know, in a soft top car. And there was a lot of sketchy stuff behind that as well, what was covered up. And as I said, referring back to him, basically what his plan was, which is basically what Vladimir Putin, and back to Stalin backdates, you know, about central banks' money, you know, trying to take out those people who, you know, basically trying to take away the people who are in those central banks, anyone, mainly any leader, political leader, Abraham Lincoln, JF Kennedy, who both, you know, tried to remove these privately owned central banks. You know, they ended up being assassinated, who had the same agenda to basically remove that. So you've got to ask yourself why anyone who basically, you know, tries to remove, you know, central owned banks, especially in the biggest countries in the world, what make the most money, which are privately owned, or get killed, or suddenly go, you know, they end up assassinated. There's a reason behind that. You know, you've got to ask yourself, really, ask yourself why. Because if you can't see that's more than coincidental, you know, Abraham Lincoln, JF Kennedy, if you can't see that's more than coincidental, and as I said, now suddenly Vladimir Putin, you know, that they've already tried assassinating with good reasons, again in a highly populated country with a central bank, then you've got to ask yourself why. Because as I said, you know, as is said, research, you know, these central owned banks, you know, like in America, it says they're government owned, and you know, you do your research and that, and you know, they say that they're owned, you know, by they're not owned by the government, they're privately owned. So what does that tell you? You know, because it means somebody owns them, but no one's ever, well, it's been leaked who owns them, Rothschilds, but no one knew that until people looked into that. And you know, it goes very, very deep. And you know, people always, as I said, that's why, you know, the conspiracy thing, people see it as nutters and going out of context, but I talk basically on facts, and these are just facts. You know, I've already explained them on the other videos on my YouTube, you know, but, you know, it's a very scary thing, and, you know, it's more than coincidental. So, yeah, you know what, I'll try and leave it as short as possible, but I'm just putting the, you know, the main points across. Same as, you know, like Edward Snowden, you know, if Putin's so anti-Western, you know, as they're trying to put it across, and this is the opposition, why did he give refuge to an American citizen, or, you know, well, now ex-Secret Service, you know, NSA agent Edward Snowden? He gave refuge to him, you know, and, you know, basically let him stay in that country, and basically, you know, let him, you know, from stopping being extradited back to the USA to basically be in prison without trial, just for, you know, basically leaking information, you know, about illegal surveillance on the world. So, you know, as I said, non-biased view, but it's like a judge, you know, and when I connect the dots to, you know, what the history behind, you know, 9/11, and a lot of things, you know, you look into the Boston bombing and that, there's this, you know, there's a lot beyond that, and, you know, you look at, well, Russia's recent history, if you put aside the Soviet Union and all that stuff, you know, talking about recent stuff, and, you know, it tells me a lot about, you know, this conflict and what it's really about. You know, same as Edward Snowden, American citizen, and as I said, guaranteed, if that man didn't make it to Russia or even Hong Kong, you know, they would have blacklisted that man as well. They basically would have had him assassinated as well. Because leading on to that global surveillance program, you know, from the NSA, it's called global, keyword global. And, you know, it's called global surveillance. So you got to think of global surveillance. And that tells you a lot, you know, that they're spying on the world. You know, spying on the world. As I said, you know, they illegally spied on China, which they didn't have permission. So that was hacking already, hacking into China's system. And, you know, when you think about China themselves, you know, who are going to be part of, you know, this World War III against the Western UK and that, it tells you a lot on that as well. And you got to think to yourself, you know, what's going on with that. You know, there's a lot of things going on, and it's very serious, and people are just, you know, sitting there blind, and things are going to get real serious soon. Just trying to look into anything, you know, what I've missed out. I think I've covered it all. But yeah, you know, the global surveillance program, that really says a lot, as I said. And, you know, when I connect the dots to basically what's already global surveillance anyway, as I said, you know, Variant Systems Israel, you know, they're basically in charge of the CCTV of 50 countries across the world, including, you know, one nation being the United Kingdom. As I said, their connections to 7/7 and the USA, but, you know, that's 50 countries. and that's near enough global surveillance anyway. But yeah, and their connections to 9/11 and that and all that stuff. And as I said, you know, and then their connections with CIA, NSA, and that. So you can see where the network leads. It's just how my mind works, you know, the skills I've got. It just connects dots and builds up a network and puts things together as I think. So yeah, you know, if you can't connect the dots from that and what's really going on, the bigger picture, you know, that's hidden from your eyes, then I really don't have any help for you. You know, global surveillance. Why are they spying on everyone in the first place? Ask yourself that. Why are they spying on everyone? There's a reason to it. So yeah, you know, briefly put, as I said, you know, and what I'll leave is a brief summary at the end of this recording. You know, I'll keep it as short and sweet as possible. And then I'll add the video of Vladimir Putin and what he was saying at this conference about this New World Order thing. But basically put, you know, starting from the beginning, you know, referring to Stalin, and, you know, basically where what is known as the Rothschilds had trouble with him because, you know, he was refusing and fighting over them actually putting a central bank in Russia in the first place. And then fast forward into basically where Vladimir Putin talked about, you know, calling out for arrest of the Rothschilds. And then after that, or before, around that time, he did a conference in front of Russia and that, you know, talking out about this New World Order and agenda. Moving on to, you know, the recent things with Ukraine and Syria, where basically he was being a pain in the ass, you know, near enough to the point for the West and that in Israel, because he was basically arming the opposition or sticking up for their, you know, they were trying to arm. And then, you know, the thing to do with Ukraine, as I said, attempted assassination of Vladimir Putin over Ukraine, where basically, you know, they mistook a commercial plane for his presidential plane, as I said, because it was in the same flight area. And, you know, basically it tells me a lot. And, you know, as I said, they're trying to overthrow him as well, the West and that. And, you know, they're basically trying to overtake Russia and make it US controlled in the first place. And, you know, when you tie it together, that basically, as I said, powerful country, powerful leader of Russia, not going to be easy to overthrow. So their only solution to take him out and overthrow Russia is, you know, to go to war, which is why this war is starting and about to start, you know, and why it's going to be so big. Because first of all, we spoke out against them. And now they know, and they've already known for years that, you know, Russia obviously is one of those countries that refuses to let them take control. Therefore, an enemy, you know, that's for starters. So, you know, there's a lot of things beyond that. And if you can't connect the dots and start seeing, you know, the obviousness of, you know, these Rothschilds and their, you know, their involvement, you know, behind the scenes of the world, you know, then I don't have any help for you. Because, you know, simply put, you know, and I need to get this put into people's heads so people wake up. I don't mean to put it across as offensive, but people are so close-minded. But, you know, there's a reason, you know, why this has all started all of a sudden. And, you know, why it's such a big reason. Because, as I said, the first person and, you know, a leader of a powerful country actually speaks about them, you know, in front of the world and exposes them. And then all of a sudden after that, you know, Russia is getting targeted for lots of things. And, you know, that the people that he talked about, Rothschild's New World Order, they make it obvious, they make themselves stand out more so obvious from the lies that they don't even have anything to do with the control of the world by doing that. You know, just by connecting the dots from when he mentioned them. You know, they just put themselves out in the light, to me anyway. And, you know, they've made themselves stand out like a sore thumb to me and basically admitted that, you know, they are in charge. And as I said, do your research. I've actually left it on one of my videos. They are the richest family in the world. You know, the last backdated thing, they were 500 trillion in that family. And, you know, that was years ago. And, you know, that was probably before the Afghan thing where oil and opium and anywhere else, you know, Africa and that diamond trade has been invaded. They've got more money than you think now. And, you know, there's a reason. You know, ask yourself how they're the richest family in the world in the first place. They obviously got that money. And that's why I connect the dots back to, you know, the Civil War, America, first central bank appeared there. Everywhere else where these wars have started since then, the Battle of Waterloo, Napoleon, France, everywhere, you know, central banks have landed. England as well. You know, this family have suddenly got richer. And, you know, they've even made quotes back in the past. Nathan Rothschild was one of them. Another one, you know, they actually formally said, you know, whoever controls the money supply, you know, those quotes, they both said near enough, subtly saying we control those countries wherever money, we own banks. And that it makes it so obvious from the past of what they said. You know, these are ancestors and their connection with Israel, as I said, you know, I'm just connecting dots and summarising this. You know, that in Israel, that they have streets and that, you know, named after the Rothschilds' ancestors, you know, and the connection with Israel. You know, it's just my mind networking everything together, connecting dots. You know, it doesn't make it any more obvious, you know, about the whole thing and what it's about. And if you can't wake up to that and you stay asleep, then, you know, after this World War III and that, you know, everyone's going to be caught with their pants down and you're going to get bit at the arse and it'll be too late for you. You know, I'm sure Russia aren't as innocent as they seem, no. I mean, once I was thinking to my back, and this is based on theory, maybe, who knows, maybe there's an agenda behind them, but I don't think there is. Because, you know, what my mind argues against that is, as I said with Russia, you know, what I've been talking about before, you know, that basically what I talked is like an example. It's like two men standing there, you know, like that, and one's threatening the other man that is going to attack him. And that would be the US and the NATO forces. And Russia's the man standing there, you know, basically with his arms crossed saying, look, I won't fight back until you take the first punch. And that tells you who's attacking who as well. Because as I said, it's not Russia invading even flying over Britain, the closest country, attacking Britain or flying over to America. It's NATO forces, America. Anyone who's involved with the NATO forces who are on Russia's borders, waiting in neighbouring countries to basically go into there and attack any time. And, you know, that's all the way up from analysis and judgment, you know, that tells me a lot more. And as I said, who's been illegally hacking who? Because that global surveillance program is America, NSA. And it seems they've been hacking Russia, which I'm sure they wouldn't have had permission to do. China, you know, two countries already, you know, who are basically going to have this conflict with this war. So, you know, if it's going to be pointing fingers to, if I was the judge to say, you know, from a non-biased view, just looking at the evidence and the research, then, you know, I'll call the West in that guilty. And, you know, this is non-biased. This is just looking at it in a realistic view, you know, and there's a lot of bad stuff behind it. So, yeah, you know, all I know is this agenda, and it makes more sense than that about this, basically, this World Martial Law, aka New World Order, starting after Russia's overthrown, because, you know, it's basically them taking out the opposition. And, you know, all again to the point, you know, as soon as they do that, they get the money control over a very big country, you know, one of the biggest countries in the world, what I was referring to at the start, highly populated, more money. So, you know, this is why I said people have to see it from those views and see, you know, because as I said, the thing with politics and that and everything, it divides people. you know, and it really does. And you know what refers to a track from Dangerous, Dane Clifford, political activist MC, from a Listen Up track called Listen Up. It says, controlled by the same powers that control socialism, communism, and all that. You know, what it's talking about is, you know, those powers that divide everyone in the first place are the Rothschilds. They actually invented communism. They're the ones who invented it. Nationalism, socialism, all of that. They're the ones who put it there to divide people politically. Because, you know, if you ever speak to anyone, and they'll always say, don't mention politics or don't mention religion, because it always causes arguments, aka division. It divides people. People argue because it causes division. And you know, as Jordan Maxwell said, on a realistic view, you know, that again, you know, the religious institution was put there by the same powers, aka Rothschilds, to do the same thing. It's at the bottom of it, you know, to divide people. Because if you've ever noticed, the two main things, politics and religion, causes arguments. It divides people. Out of them, anything. And there's a reason why they put it there. And as I said, whether people decide to follow me on this, it is for division in the first place. And as I said, why people basically bicker and fight amongst each other over religion, religious views, or politics, whether it's in their country, to, you know, like things like communism and against socialism, aka anything of that. People are divided and not united. And then more people are divided and separated, you know, that they're basically fighting against each other. So therefore, they can't basically stand up as one against the 1% power as they're known. The elitists, you know, because everyone's divided over those things. And it's harder for them to basically, you know, unite as one, as a bigger crowd of people to protest against it and stand up and say, we know what's going on. And it's a good division system. And it's used, as I said, race, religion, gender, everything. And everyone's divided over the smallest things. And it's part of that. And it's also part of distraction, along with mainstream media and everything else they put. You know, it's just part of that system. And you know, the main core of the problems is money. So, you know, I just decode things. I don't know how my mind works. As I said, it's in my genes, my genetics, but that's just how my mind works, you know. I just, basically what I do is I have memories and that, and they network things together, like connect dots, and then it connects like a, you know, like a brainstorm or whatever, of, you know, memories, and then they connect things, and it just ends up, my mind thinks along of whatever it's thing. But yeah, you know, I'm not the most intelligent dude in the world, but the skills I've got and in my genetics, I basically use them, you know, for good purposes and that. But, you know, I try to keep this as short as possible, and I'll keep it as brief as possible. So, you know, you can look at it from your own view, but I never look at it from a biased view. As I said, I always look at it from both sides. And as I said, if it was the other way round, then I would have been saying it for the other, you know. So, it never it is. Because as I said, right, it's like, as I said, it's like I'm a judge in a courtroom. And you know that basically one side is, you know, basically what, you know, one person is saying this and that, you know, like their story is, whatever this story is, like a murder or some stuff. And you know, they're saying, oh, this happened. And then on the other side say that's the conspiracy theorist side. And they've got evidence and lots of things that, you know, contradict what the other person, you know, that we're trying to find out who guilty is and who's not. It's saying, you know, you have to look at the evidence, and you have to look at who has more evidence and what makes more sense to find out who's guilty or not. And that's why, you know, every time I look through it, you know, I make sure. This is why, you know, and as I said, referring back again on a recap to the 9/11 thing, and what I said about that, you know, years ago I was biased towards the media. You know, when it came to that, as I said, my ex, and that, you know, when it came to conspiracy videos, I was like, nah, that's a load of crap and that. And I was closed-minded, but, you know, when I looked at the other side, the conspiracy, as I said, which had loads of stuff that outweighed what the official story said and contradicted it. You know, I chose that path to follow on from there, and basically I went deeper down the rabbit hole. And the more I did, you know, the more I discovered of all those lies from 9/11, 7/7, all of those. And therefore, you know, looking at it from a non-biased, realistic view, you know, looking at both sides, that's why I've always gone on what they call conspiracy sides, because, as I said, conspiracies are basically things that don't make sense. They, you know, they question things that, like official stories and that, you know, like wars or false flag operations that outweigh the official stories from the media or whatever government, because, you know, they've got a lot of evidence to them. The conspiracies that, you know, what from leaked information or things people noticed. And so, you know, when I'm looking at another side, the conspiracy side that, you know, says a lot more over the official story, I always follow those. And all I know from analysis of, you know, from when it came to 9/11, 7/7, etc., a lot of these conspiracies, it seemed that, you know, as I said, like a courtroom, you know, that the conspiracy theorists have more evidence or more, you know, backup to them than what the official story said. So that's why I ended up being one of those conspiracy theorists, what you call them, critical thinkers, detective-minded. So, yeah, you know, if you can look at it from a realistic side, you'll start to see the real motive and the things that connect. Simply put, global surveillance program. And then, you know, basically what the New World Order is, world martial law, it's a global agenda. The word global ties in with both. Global agenda, global surveillance. And to me, it tells me that they've already got this global surveillance thing up, because, you know, basically they're studying things and they're watching the world, and it's already preparation for this thing they call the New World Order, world martial law. You know, it's already on the verge, as I said. When Russia, you know, the NATO forces in Russia's borders, for starters, that's already a sign of how close it is and everything that's been happening. And, you know, as I said, I'll recap on this again, what David Icke says, the problem, reaction, solution thing that they've used with false flag operations since 9/11, that, you know, that they will use that after World War III, you know, which they seem determined to win, what we call the elitist, and that they will say, you know, their global solution is basically to, you know, make this world martial law, New World Order, whatever you want to call it, because they will use 9/11, Madrid 7/7, Sydney, Paris, Afghanistan, Iraq, Palestine, all of those. And they'll use those as a way to justify from the problems they already created using that system, that method, what they stick to say this is why we need a world martial law, because the war between the US and that against Russia and China and that, you know, was the cherry on top, and we can't put up with this anymore. You know, but these are those problems that they certainly already planned, but they'll make it out they didn't, and they'll just say, look, we need the New World Order, and this is what it'll be, the order in the New World, and that what they'll certainly say is, maybe, you know, they'll make it look as less sinister than it is, and that's where it will come into the martial law thing. That's why I call it world martial law, because, as I said, it will simply be armies and that and stuff like that, you know, basically running into town, going into town cities and that, and people will be, you know, dictated to, you know, all of a sudden the lies you've got if you're in what you call a free country, UK, and that, it will be different. And how shocking as it seems, you know, it'll be as shocking as when it comes along as it is hard to believe. But, you know, when it happens, that'll be it. Because, as I said, referring to the USA, you know, if you're in the UK, when you listen to this recording, you're like, oh, that's bullshit, that sounds too Hollywood, blah, blah, blah. Well, as I said, refer to the USA, which is exactly the same mind state of people, but already experiencing that, which is already the start at preparation of the martial law. As I said, simply look at that. The police and that, and how they're arms. You know, they're not going around like the police used to there. You know, like normal in a suit, you know, normal cop suit and that. They're going around in military gear, you know, actual military gear, just painted in police colours. military body armor, military rifles, military vehicles like armored vehicles and the ARVs or whatever they're called. You know, that's not right already, and that's signs of what is, you know, preparation of the martial law. And you know what ties in, whether it's my third eye view that says this, or just, you know, logical thinking, that, as I said, why this World War III will be going on. I guarantee, you know, that this martial law, that the first country that the central banks took over, the central bank Rothschilds took over, will be the first, with the bank, will be the first place they take over for population control, and that, you know, the world martial law, you know, the biggest country to control, the biggest continent to control, North America, right? And why that's going on, the world would be distracted by this World War III, and the media won't even, you know, report it because they're controlled by the Rothschilds and that, so nobody will know about it anyway, and they'll just think it's just another war like World War II, World War I, and the rest of the world won't know. And this is the way I'm seeing it. And, you know, as soon as this world war is over, you know, America would have been taken over, everyone they're already being dictated to, under control and that. And, you know, everyone else, you know, that then it will happen to the rest of the world bit by bit. And the way I see it, the mind of a schemer of these people would be to do it, you know, country by country, wherever they take over bit by bit. And, you know, where the media comes along, they won't show the rest of the world what's happening. Because, you know, if they knew, as soon as they knew any population of the country saw what was going on, referring back to why they keep them asleep with the TV brainwashing machine, you know, they would do what they would do. They would rebel, stand up, you know, and they'd stand up for their rights, and it'd make it harder for them. And this is why I see their scheme in mind as to do what they're doing, and why they use the brainwashing machine, the TV, to keep everyone asleep for the first place, as I said, lined on that. Because, as I said, simply put, if people all woke up and realised, you know, the 99% population of the world, 7 billion people, if they woke up and saw the truth, do you think 1% against 99% would even last? Or even be able to take that? Because that simple little thing in the corner of your room, a TV, you know, that basically dictates you what to think and takes away your your thinking skills when it comes to that, is a very good tool that it's kept everyone distracted for many years. That they believe everything they're told like sheep unless they wake up. And therefore, you know, the more they suppress people like me, David Icke, and don't give us exposure. And they even try and bring in laws to try and shut us up, as if they think we're telling the truth. And as if we're a threat, the more people will stay asleep. So when they catch you all with your pants down, it's exactly what it is. And, you know, I just speak this from a realistic level, and I talk everything. So, you know, it's that choice thing that everyone has to make. But, you know, it's illogical to think, isn't it? When you think to yourself that basically, you know, people will still continuously walk around with their eyes closed, as if it's not important until it happens. You know, this is just analysis of a lot of people in the world, that people do that. Even I've done it in the past. You know, that people basically don't worry about anything until it happens, and when it's too late, they're worried and they're shocked, and they're helpless, and it's too late. And sometimes you've got to think ahead, and you've got to, you know, be prepared for things. Like I always am, you know. I really can't try and get the word out anymore. And, you know, everything I've put on that YouTube channel, if you go through every single one of them, you'll connect the dots with everything I've put together from research of other people. And, you know, those things connect as like a network of information and things, and they connect, you know, dots to everyone that's involved and everything about it. Because, you know, when I first made that first video, I don't think many people believed me, even though I tried to make it, you know, as realistic as possible. But the more I've, you know, used my knowledge and my skills I've got, you know what, for good terms, you know, the more I've used it for a good thing and put things together. And I'm just trying to tell everyone out there, you know, what you know, how serious this is. As I said, and in this one I've not even mentioned the Satanism and everything involved with that, but that goes to a deeper level. So, you know, I don't think there's any more I can do, but you know what, with me, whatever it is, God or my third eye view, you know, whenever time comes or something comes along, then I'll always record it or talk about it. Like I said, a page to do what mentions something to do. This is why I made this recording and what I put together. Basically to do with this is, you know, it was like something that made me remember something to do with, you know, Stalin and that, and the central bank in Russia and that. And then it just, my mind and my memory, you know, a network of memories from things I remember. It just flashes and, you know, it all networks together. And I suddenly, you know, put things together quickly of knowledge and memories. And this is why I made this recording. So yeah, you know, I don't know why, you know, there's something special about my mind and my genes that makes it work that way, that I can do it and how it works. But, you know, I'm glad that I do it for goodwill. But you know what upsets me is, you know, is that a lot of people don't seem to wake up out there. I don't know if there is, but I don't think it's being as effective as it should be. Because I'm just looking out for everyone out there. Because it's for your own interests. Even if you got, you know, like personal vendettas against other people, and you're part of that, you know, victims of that division process, political, religious, race, whatever. You know, even if you're part of that, well, look out for yourself and think for yourself, because you will be a victim just like everyone else. Everyone. Even if you think you're important, like I said, you will be the same. You'll be in the same boat. You know, and what I'll try and leave in this, I'm going to try and keep it under an hour. I'm at 50 minutes at the moment. But, you know, you've got to ask yourself, especially as a UK citizen, can you not look back? Can you just not look at the world? I mean, the country itself, and just see what's going on. You know, because I don't agree with the government. This is why I'm not anti-government. I'm anti-corruption. I don't agree when a party or government, especially in a country it's supposed to be called Great Britain, you know, simply just cuts off people's benefits who are ill or whatever, and they leave them near enough to die or struggle or suffer, just so they can gain either seats in the Houses of Parliament, or, you know, basically give money to people who already have jobs and make money and have a better living, and actually, you know, you can work because they don't have an illness that stops them from getting a job, either, you know, whatever it is. You know, they leave people to die near enough, and as I said, people are committing suicide and that, you know, over losing this money and that. I don't agree with a government that does that. That's not humane people to me, to do that over something called money. And that's just part of this world that does that, you know. So yeah, you know, when you look at the world like that and you see it, because simply put, right, if you're one of those working people who voted for the Tories because you wanted to get less tax and let the people who cannot not work because they're ill get less money. Well, as I said, what happens if, you know, suddenly you become ill and you become mentally ill? You go through depression, because it can start from that. You get schizophrenia from that, anything. And, you know, suddenly you're in the boat of those people. Then you'll be in the same boat, and you'll probably end up killing yourself, or, you know, struggling for money just because you know, became ill without expecting it or realising it, just because you started getting depressed about life or something. So yeah, you know, this is where it comes to, and I don't agree with a country or any government that does that to people just over money. Because as I said, simply put, you know, why should I, you know, forget about how I feel victimised? It isn't even a vendetta anyway, but I'm just looking at it from a realistic view, and that's just being honest to it about it. It's not right, is it? Because in a country like this, right, and how it should be seen, you know, that everyone should be treated equally first of all, and out of anything, the people, you know, who really need the money and have no choice but to not be able to work because they won't be employed for their illness, need money. They shouldn't have it cut. You know, their money cut and even forced to go and get a job in the first place or whatever. You know, just so, you know, because so the party or whatever, who wanted to get the votes in the Houses of Parliament, you know, get their seats and that. It's bad to me, and this is why I don't agree with how the country's run. And you know why it's the world's run. So yeah, you know, just look at it that way because, you know, it's really bad. I can't see how people can't see it when they look at this country itself, let alone the world, and they really open their eyes and see what it's really about, unless they're really inhumane, and more people in the world are really that low and sick in their head more than I imagine. But you know, if you're actually humane and you actually see the world for what it is, you know, it is messed up, you know. And it's not just the UK, USA, it's a lot of places. What do you see in the local papers every day? You know, unless it's elections where it suddenly becomes front page news when it's in their interest. You know, general news, it's always, you know, even local papers, local murder, this, murder that, rape this, rape that. War this, war that. Police corruption, this, police, you know, there's all the time. That's all you see. And you know, that's the world we're living in. And if you don't see the world for what that is, I don't have any help for you. But yeah, you know, I've tried to keep that as simple as possible. You know, it should be an hour long, but yeah, you know, that's my view on it, an unbiased view. And that's the way I see it, you know. Or, you know, simply put, you know, I try not to go on, but I'll try and leave this as short as possible is, you know, especially since 9/11, you know, you've seen it, and this is where my path started. And when I started realising my ability in that, which I never was told I had until I unlocked it more and more, you know, basically I've connected those dots through research, through everything, and put those videos together myself, you know, using my mind thinking system, you know, like Secret Service style thought system, whatever it is. And you know, this is what I've put together. And you know, to people on my level, or even people who can't think on that level, you know, it should make sense to any of you, as long as you're not closed-minded. And you know, you just listen to what I've got to tell you. Because you know, I've put together videos with actual forensic evidence and that, but I've even put in things, you know, from research that I've added. And you know, I've added my thoughts in, you know, with good reason to them, and connect to those dots, so to make it as understandable to everyone out there, the more people I can wake up. Because that's why I said, you know, and what I'll say again, however it could work or not, but you know, like conspiracy theorists, like people like that, me, anyone out there who's basically, you know, like conspiracy theorist, anti-corruption, and you know, fighting for, you know, people's rights. The way I see it, that people should basically work together on those things more than, you know, how they do. Because, you know, the more we get the word out about this, you know, the more the world will wake up. Because, you know, as I said, I've learnt a lot from David Icke and that, Vinnie Paz, Dangerous, you know, artist to a conspiracy theorist who narrate things. You know, from people who make the videos like the 9/11s, you know, basically that's what I've learnt the stuff through them. And then I've learnt what I've learnt through them and put it in my own, you know, my own words and that, with their research and that. And, you know, the more people that wake up, this is why. And as I said in the last video, I've got about 5 minutes left. I'll try and keep this an hour long, but, you know, as I said in the last video, the only thing I gain from this propaganda, as the government are calling it, what they gain from it is money. And what I gain from it is, you know, waking people up and making people realise, you know, that it's not such a nice fairy tale lands that people believe it, or world as they believe it. And it's very serious. You know, this is very, very serious stuff. And to the people who are so selfish out there, well, you know, as with selfish people, when it happens to you, then it bothers you. And well, if you're selfish, well, listen to this, because when this thing called the world martial law happens, then you won't be sitting there thinking, oh, it isn't me, so I don't have to worry. You will be in the same boat as everyone else. And then it will suddenly matter. And that's why I want to wake up everyone out there, no matter their views, opposing views and that, and whatever they have. Because the more people that wake up, you know, the more people will know, and people can protest against it. And you know what I'll leave this out with is, you know, I don't know if it's down to the truth, but as I said, referring to Edward Snowden and to Vladimir Putin, and you know, when he mentioned the 9/11 footage, which seems to come from Edward Snowden, whatever he took from the hard drives of NSA, basically what made Obama go quiet when Vladimir Putin mentioned that. You know, if the man's got that evidence, you know, and that satellite footage from probably an American Secret Service satellite, you know, he should release that, because I guarantee that will be enough evidence to wake up all those skeptics out there who still can't believe, even from forensic evidence, to say it was an inside job. That would prevent a war, I reckon. I really do think it would. Because all the big population of skeptics out there to see official footage, and which would be from a American satellite itself, to prove that it came from the source of the people who did it, to prove that it was the Bush administration, you know, that did it in the first place, to connect everything that came from that would prevent a war, because people will wake up and they'd see anyway. They'll wake up the people who really need the proof to see it, just believe it. Because you couldn't have any more proof, could you, when you think about it? Because these satellite images, what the American government would have recorded, you know, it'll be imprinted and it'll have the encryptions and that from that satellite and stuff and that system to say it belongs to them in the first place. And you know that they actually recorded it for what purposes I don't know, but I guarantee they recorded it deliberately when they did it, obviously to keep it hidden. But you know, it's leaked from Edward Snowden, luckily, and you know that would stop. That really would stop everything from happening in the first place. A very devastating thing, because what you've got to realise is, you know, in regards to people who have families and that, who are soldiers and that, you know, these people are going to be the people who, you know, that actually are the keys to this war in the first place, you know, and they're the people who will go out and die for it over what this agenda is really about. And that's just not Western, like American, UK, and that's also Russian, Chinese troops, everyone, you know. And we're talking about weapons of mass destruction being involved, fired at, you know, civilians and countries. You know, these things are very, very devastating. You know, to prevent all that, first of all, I reckon, you know, the first stage of it would be to leak this footage what Edward Snowden took from NSA's system to prove to the world, leak to the world, you know, that it was an inside job from the American government. And then what would lead from that is any of the soldiers, even on those, you know, on the Western side and that, who are still skeptical about it, would see as well themselves, and they'd stand down as well. And that process would start to making it stop. And then the world would wake up, the world's population of skeptics, and they'd see the truth. Because, you know, when they find out, you know, that 9/11 was an inside job with this proof, you know, they'd know that the conspiracies about 7/7, ISIS, Israel, Mossad, Sydney, Paris, Madrid, and all of those false flag operations would have been inside jobs as well. And everything that conspiracy theorists were talking about was true, and the Rothschilds exist and everything. And, you know, referring to, I think it was Henry Ford or whoever it was, you know, basically that if the people knew about who controls the banking system, there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning. You know, basically people would know. And, you know, all those people in power who hide behind the shadows that do all this stuff to the world and have done it, they'd be taken down from power in prison for it or whatever. And, you know, world would be a better place, simply put. We don't have to talk about birds and fairies and shit. You know, I'm just talking realistic. You know, it would stop a lot of bad things from happening. And, you know, any more false flag attacks and all that stuff, it would fuck up the system, the evil system that runs the world. Because as I said, you know, it's like Loki says, two choices now, revolution or genocide or whatever. You know, there's that two choices, and it's getting very close. And, you know, simply put, you either protest and say, look, we know what's going on, wake up, or you know, walk into your graves, walk into your own dooms. But yeah, that's what I simply put across. I don't know what's going on and why Vladimir Putin isn't, you know, even going to release this. I don't know why. As I said, I can't read the man's mind. I'm sure he's got something part of that. But yeah, you know what tells me that he has it, first of all, that, you know, he has this footage, is the connection with Edward Snowden. Because Edward Snowden, you know, he took a lot of stuff, as I said, thousands of documents from the NSA system and went on the run with them. And as I said, simply put, thousands of documents won't even be part, you know, they'll be that global surveillance program thing, what he leaked, will be probably about 10% or less of the information he's got from NSA, the main core of America's system, of anything, you know, that's illegal that they've done. So I guarantee that this satellite footage he found when he took that off the system is basically what he's got as well. Because as I said, there's a reason why President Barack Obama suddenly went quiet when he was having conflicts, bickering, basically simply put, with President Vladimir Putin. You know, he suddenly started being really kind to him. And this is when Edward Snowden had been given refuge in Russia. Because if Obama knew it wasn't true and he wasn't told what was taken from NSA systems, he would have just, when he heard Vladimir Putin say that, you know, he wouldn't have backed down. He wouldn't have changed his tone. He would have just carried on. There's a reason why he did, because I guarantee that the head of NSA or whatever, you know, he told him that what, you know, that he has, that's what Edward Snowden took with him. And this is why it makes more sense why Edward Snowden, you know, is such a target, that they're so desperate to ruin the man if they can't extradite him or assassinate him, because he has taken very, very important information from the NSA system, you know, and, you know, the key one being the 9/11 satellite footage. You can see why he's such a big enemy of the US government, because, you know, he basically went rogue, and that is why they're trying to ruin his reputation. Why they've brought in a law to threaten US citizens not to fund the charity, whatever he's got. You know, if they do, they'll imprison them. Why they're trying to extradite him from Russia. You know, everything. You know, it makes a lot of sense to me. So yeah, I guarantee that Vladimir Putin and the Russian government have possession of this footage of, you know, basically satellite imagery of a US satellite showing, you know, proof that it was an inside job. Who knows what else? You never know, do you? Because, you know, when I think about it, if Edward Snowden, you know, because as I said, the NSA, you've got, NSA is the main core of, you know, like a US intelligence government. It's over CIA, Central Intelligence Agency. You know, it's the main core. And that's the reason why he got hold of this footage of, you know, the 9/11 satellite imagery. So who knows what else he's got. He could even have, you know, phone communication, you know, communication between officials of the US government, even Bush himself, who knows. And anyone else who actually spoke about, you know, the plans for this 9/11 thing, and whoever else they spoke to. Maybe Netanyahu and that of Prime Minister of Israel. You never know, do you? Because when I think about it even more now, connecting the dots in my mind, this is what it does. There's a reason they're so desperate as well, not only to do with this thing with taking out Vladimir Putin and that, and, you know, it going to war with Russia. You know, Edward Snowden must have very, very important information for them to actually be that desperate. Because, you know, the way I see it, you know, Vladimir Putin is basically carrying what you would be calling a, you know, like a VIP witness to a court case, right? That could basically, you know, like see it as a organised criminal organisation, like underground, where they're near and far anyway, the Rothschilds, but see it as just a general one. And it's like, you know, police have got a man in protection with, you know, like a very harsh evidence against a mafia group movement or something. And, you know, they're doing whatever they can, you know, to basically take out this witness and that before he goes to court. And that's an example of Edward Snowden and Vladimir Putin and Russia and that. This is based in theory, but I'm just connecting the dots and it makes sense to me. Because it must be so important, you know, that they want to go this far with it in the first place. There's a reason to it. So, you know, there's a lot of things to it. And I've tried to keep this as short as possible with it over an hour. But if you can't see that now and you can't, you know, connect the dots and that, I don't have any hope for anyone out there. You know, it's getting close. It's getting close. So, yeah, you make your choices. And when you make your choice, you know, make sure you make it. Because, you know, it's not hard to do. And like I said before, out of humiliation, well, as I said, I've pointed out the more obvious about, you know, what's going on. But, you know, when there's people that probably feel humiliated if they went out on the streets and protested in marches, because if it ended up not being true, they'd feel like a fool. You know, what I put across is that, well, you know, if you go out with all those other people, they'll be in the same boat as you. So it's not as if you'll be standing alone humiliated, because everyone else can say, well, we feel humiliated as well, if you do. It's not hard, you know, it's not hard to go on a march or something in the street and just say, look, we know what's going on, we're aware, we know what's going on. And we're not happy with it or whatever, you know, we have rights and that. Or, as I said, if you want to take it to the other choice, what I'll put it across as is when this right of democracy comes in, when they say, whenever it comes to it, which I believe it might be part of, hopefully, for you to have the chance of this, if they ever say, you know, we want to go to war with Russia, China, North Korea, you know that you have the right to say, we're not happy, because, you know, people like me and David Icke and that have been warning you about what the outcome will be. You have the right to simply say, nah, we're not happy with that, you know. We don't want this, our rights is to say no as the British public, American public. And, you know, it'll be as simple as that. And hopefully that will stop it in the first place. I don't know, though, as I said, because they're really desperate to take out Russia and that, you know, not only to do with the central bank, but as I said, Edward Snowden, everything, you know. So, I don't know, but people have got to stand up and wake up, because when it happens, simply put, you know, you have a choice. And if you don't, I guarantee things will change for everyone out there. In the world, for everyone, it will be so damn fucked up. Worse than you can imagine. So, you know, I'll leave it on that. And you can make your decision, you know. You're like the jury, right? Judge and jury, when you're a listener to this. And I'm the man just giving the information from a non-biased view. So, yeah, if you wake up, then I'll be glad. If you stay asleep, well, I try to help you. So, signing up. Peace.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice.
Hey, my friends, this is Evangelist Anita Fuentes coming to you with Open Your Eyes, People, breaking news. Breaking news, hot off the wire, concerning the jet, the Malaysian 77 jet that just crashed over in the Ukraine and Russian border. Well, I got top breaking news that just came out hot off the wire concerning the fact that President Putin's plane may have been the very target for the Ukrainian missile, according to Interfax sources. Check this out. Malaysia Airlines MH17 plane was traveling almost the same route as Russia's President Vladimir Putin's jet shortly before the crash that killed 295, according to Interfax news agency's reports citing sources. It's quoted as stating, "I can say that Putin's plane and the Malaysian Boeing intersected at the same point and the same Ekelon that was close to Warsaw 3:30 m Ekelon at the height of 10,100 meters. The presidential jet was there at 16:21 Moscow time and the Malaysian aircraft 15:44 Moscow time," a source told the news agency on condition of anonymity. Now listen, we need to understand something here, my friends. Russia, Vladimir Putin's Russia, just came back from a South American tour where he's just initiated and started a brand new international bank called the BRICS. Stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South America. Now, we reported it here that Vladimir Putin may very well be an attempted assassination because of the fact he's going against the plans of the New World Order. He is he actually has already brokered nuclear power deals with both the president of Argentina and starting to get a spy center reestablished over in Cuba. With that, this new monetary bank called the BRICS is expected to give the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank a run for their money, because this new bank will provide money for infrastructure and development projects in BRICS countries. Again, the BRICS countries are Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. This totally takes away from the Southern dominance influence, the Western dominance that they want to break themselves apart of. We've reported it to you before. We're going to say it again. Is Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, is he being targeted for assassination because he's going against the New World Order? Follow us on our Facebook page, www.emof.org. You can go to our Facebook link on our website. Join the conversation. We look forward to coming back to you again. God bless.
Спасибо большое, уважаемая госпожа федеральный канцлер, господин Тельчик, дамы и господа. Весьма признателен за приглашение на столь представительную конференцию, собравшую политиков, военных, предпринимателей, экспертов из более чем 40 стран мира. Формат конференции дает мне возможность избежать излишнего политеса и необходимости говорить округлыми, приятными, но пустыми дипломатическими штампами. Формат конференции позволяет сказать то, что я действительно думаю о проблемах международной безопасности. И если мои рассуждения покажутся нашим коллегам излишне полемически заостренными, либо неточными, я прошу на меня не сердиться. Это ведь только конференция. И надеюсь, что после 2-3 минут моего выступления господин Тельчик не включит там красный свет. Итак, известно, что проблематика международной безопасности много шире вопросов военно-политической стабильности. Это устойчивость мировой экономики, преодоление бедности, экономическая безопасность и развитие межцивилизационного диалога. Такой всеобъемлющий, неделимый характер безопасности выражен и в ее базовом принципе. Безопасность каждого – это безопасность всех. Как сказал еще в первые дни разгоравшейся Второй мировой войны Франклин Рузвельт, где бы ни был нарушен мир, мир повсюду оказывается в безопасности и под угрозой. Эти слова продолжают сохранять актуальность и сегодня. Об этом, кстати, свидетельствует и тема нашей конференции, которая здесь вот написана: «Глобальные кризисы, глобальная ответственность». Всего лишь 2 десятилетия назад мир был идеологически и экономически расколот, а его безопасность обеспечивали огромные стратегические потенциалы 2 сверхдержав. глобальное противостояние отодвигало на периферию международных отношений и повестки дня крайне острые экономические и социальные вопросы. И как всякая война, война холодная оставила нам и не разорвавшиеся снаряды, образно выражаясь. Имею в виду идеологические стереотипы, двойные стандарты, иные шаблоны блокового мышления. Предлагавшийся же после холодной войны однополярный мир тоже не состоялся. История человечества, конечно, знает и периоды однополярного состояния, и стремления к мировому господству. Чего только не было в истории человечества. Однако, что же такое однополярный мир? Как бы ни украшали этот термин, он в конечном итоге означает на практике только одно. Это один центр власти, один центр силы, один центр принятия решения. Это мир одного хозяина, одного суверена. И это в конечном итоге губительно не только для всех, кто находится в рамках этой системы, но и для самого суверена, потому что разрушает его изнутри. И это ничего общего не имеет, конечно, с демократией. Потому что демократия – это, как известно, власть большинства при учете интересов и мнений меньшинства. Кстати говоря, Россию нас постоянно учат демократии. Но те, кто нас учат, сами почему-то учиться не очень хотят. Считаю, что для современного мира однополярная модель не только неприемлема, но и вообще невозможна. И не только потому, что при единоличном лидерстве в современном, именно в современном мире не будет хватать ни военно-политических, ни экономических ресурсов. Но, что еще важнее, сама модель является неработающей, так как в ее основе нет и не может быть морально-нравственной базы современной цивилизации. Вместе с тем, все, что происходит сегодня в мире, и сейчас мы только вот начали дискутировать об этом, это следствие попыток внедрения именно этой концепции в мировые дела, концепции однополярного мира. А какой результат? Односторонние, нелегитимные часто действия не решили ни одной проблемы. Более того, они стали генератором новых человеческих трагедий и очагов напряженности. Судите сами. Войн, локальных и региональных конфликтов меньше не стало. Господин Тельчик вот об этом очень мягко упомянул. И людей в этих конфликтах гибнет не меньше, а даже больше, чем раньше. Значительно больше. Значительно больше. Сегодня мы наблюдаем почти ничем не сдерживаемое, гипертрофированное применение силы в международных делах, военной силы. Силы, ввергающие мир в пучину следующих один за другим конфликтов. В результате не хватает сил на комплексное решение ни одного из них. Становится невозможным и их политическое решение. Мы видим все большее пренебрежение основополагающими принципами международного права. Больше того, отдельные нормы, да по сути чуть ли не вся система права одного государства, прежде всего, конечно, Соединенных Штатов, перешагнула свои национальные границы и, по сути, во всех сферах, и в экономике, и в политике, и в гуманитарной сфере навязывается другим государствам. Ну, кому это понравится? Кому это понравится? В международных делах все чаще встречается стремление решить тот или иной вопрос, исходя из так называемой политической целесообразности, основанной на текущей политической конъюнктуре. И это, конечно, крайне опасно. И ведет к тому, что никто уже не чувствует себя в безопасности. Я хочу это подчеркнуть. Никто не чувствует себя в безопасности. Потому что никто не может спрятаться за международным правом, как за каменной стеной. Такая политика является, конечно, катализатором гонки вооружений. Доминирование фактора силы неизбежно подпитывает тягу ряда стран к обладанию оружием массового уничтожения. Больше того, появились принципиально новые угрозы, которые и раньше были известны, но сегодня приобретают глобальный характер, такие как терроризм. Убежден, мы подошли к тому рубежному моменту, когда должны серьезно задуматься над всей архитектурой глобальной безопасности. И здесь надо отталкиваться от поиска разумного баланса между интересами всех субъектов международного общения. Тем более сейчас, когда международный ландшафт столь ощутимо и столь быстро меняется. Меняется за счет динамичного развития целого ряда государств и регионов. Госпожа федеральный канцлер упомянула уже об этом. Так, суммарный ВВП Индии и Китая по паритетной покупательной способности уже больше, чем у Соединенных Штатов Америки. А рассчитанный по тому же принципу ВВП государств группы БРИК, Бразилия, Россия, Индия, Китай, превосходит совокупный ВВП Евросоюза. И по оценкам экспертов, в обозримой исторической перспективе этот разрыв будет только возрастать. Не стоит сомневаться, что экономический потенциал новых центров мирового роста будет неизбежно конвертироваться в политическое влияние и укреплять будет многополярность. В этой связи серьезно возрастает роль многосторонней дипломатии. Открытость, транспарентность и предсказуемость политики безальтернативны. А применение силы должно быть действительно исключительной мерой. Так же, как и применение смертной казни в правовых системах некоторых государств. Сегодня же мы, наоборот, наблюдаем ситуацию, когда страны, в которых применение смертной казни запрещено даже в отношении убийц и других преступников, опасных преступников. Несмотря на это, такие страны легко идут на участие в военных операциях, которые трудно назвать легитимными. А ведь в этих конфликтах гибнут люди, сотни, тысячи мирных людей. Но в то же время возникает вопрос, разве мы должны безучастно и безвольно взирать на различные внутренние конфликты в отдельных странах, на действия авторитарных режимов, тиранов, на распространение оружия массового уничтожения? Именно, по сути, это и лежало в основе вопроса, который был задан федеральному канцлеру нашим уважаемым коллегой господином Либерманом. Можем ли мы безучастно смотреть на то, что происходит? Я попробую ответить на ваш вопрос тоже. Конечно, мы не должны смотреть безучастно. Конечно, нет. Но есть ли у нас средства, чтобы противостоять этим угрозам? Конечно, есть. Достаточно вспомнить недавнюю историю. Ведь произошел же мирный переход к демократии в нашей стране. Ведь состоялась же мирная трансформация советского режима. Мирная трансформация. И какого режима? С каким количеством оружия, в том числе ядерного оружия? Почему же сейчас при каждом удобном случае нужно бомбить и стрелять? Неужели в условиях отсутствия угрозы взаимного уничтожения нам не хватает политической культуры, уважения к ценностям демократии и к праву? Убежден, единственным механизмом принятия решений по использованию военной силы, как последнего довода, может быть только устав ООН. И в этой связи я или не понял то, что было сказано вот совсем недавно нашим коллегой, министром обороны Италии, либо он выразился неточно. Я, во всяком случае, услышал, что легитимным применение силы может считаться только в том случае, если решение принято в НАТО, или в Евросоюзе, или в ООН. Если он действительно так считает, то у нас с ним разные точки зрения. Или я ослышался. Легитимным можно считать применение силы только если решение принято на основе и в рамках ООН. И не надо подменять Организацию Объединенных Наций ни НАТО, ни Евросоюзом. И когда ООН будет реально объединять силы международного сообщества, которое действительно может реагировать на события в отдельных странах, когда мы избавимся от пренебрежения международным правом, то ситуация может измениться. В противном случае ситуация будет заходить лишь в тупик и умножать количество тяжелых ошибок. При этом, конечно, нужно добиваться того, чтобы международное право имело универсальный характер и в понимании, и в применении норм. И нельзя забывать, что демократический образ действий в политике обязательно предполагает дискуссию и кропотливую выработку решений. Уважаемые дамы и господа, потенциальная опасность дестабилизации международных отношений связана и с очевидным застоем в области разоружения. Россия выступает за возобновление диалога по этому важнейшему вопросу. Важно сохранить устойчивость международно-правовой разоруженческой базы. При этом обеспечить преемственность процесса сокращения ядерных вооружений. Мы договорились с Соединенными Штатами Америки о сокращении наших ядерных потенциалов на стратегических носителях до 1700-2200 ядерных боезарядов к 31 декабря 2012 года. Россия намерена строго выполнять взятые на себя обязательства. Надеемся, что и наши партнеры будут действовать так же транспарентно и не будут откладывать на всякий случай, на черный день, лишнюю пару сотен ядерных боезарядов. И если сегодня новый министр обороны Соединенных Штатов здесь нам объявит, что Соединенные Штаты не будут прятать эти заряды и лишние ни на складах, ни под подушкой, ни под одеялом, я предлагаю всем встать и стоя это поприветствовать. Это было бы очень важным заявлением. Россия строго придерживается и намерена в дальнейшем придерживаться договора о нераспространении ядерного оружия и многостороннего режима контроля за ракетными технологиями. Принципы, заложенные в этих документах, носят универсальный характер. В этой связи хотел бы вспомнить, что в 80-е годы СССР и Соединенные Штаты подписали договор о ликвидации целого класса ракет средней и малой дальности. Но универсального характера этому документу придано не было. Сегодня такие ракеты уже имеет целый ряд стран. Корейская Народно-Демократическая Республика, Республика Корея, Индия, Иран, Пакистан, Израиль. Многие другие государства мира разрабатывают эти системы и планируют поставить их на вооружение. И только Соединенные Штаты Америки и Россия несут обязательство не создавать подобных систем вооружений. Ясно, что в этих условиях мы вынуждены задуматься об обеспечении своей собственной безопасности. Вместе с тем, нельзя допустить появления новых дестабилизирующих высокотехнологичных видов оружия. Я уже не говорю о мерах по предупреждению новых сфер конфронтации, особенно в космосе. «Звездные войны», как известно, уже не фантастика, а реальность. Еще в середине 80-х годов наши американские партнеры на практике провели перехват собственного спутника. Милитаризация космоса, по мнению России, может спровоцировать непредсказуемые для мирового сообщества последствия. Не меньшие, чем начало ядерной эры. И мы не раз выступали с инициативами, направленными на недопущение оружия в космос. Сегодня хотел бы проинформировать вас о том, что нами подготовлен проект договора о предотвращении размещения оружия в космическом пространстве. В ближайшее время он будет направлен партнерам в качестве официального предложения. Давайте работать над этим вместе. Нас также не могут не тревожить планы по развертыванию элементов системы противоракетной обороны в Европе. Кому нужен очередной виток неизбежной в этом случае гонки вооружений? Глубоко сомневаюсь, что самим европейцам. Ракетного оружия, реально угрожающего Европе, с дальностью действия порядка 5-8 тысяч километров, нет ни у одной так называемой из проблемных стран. И в обозримом будущем, в обозримой перспективе и не появится, не предвидится даже. Да и гипотетический пуск, например, северокорейской ракеты по территории США через Западную Европу, это явно противоречит законам баллистики. Как говорят у нас в России, это все равно, что правой рукой дотягиваться до левого уха. И находясь здесь, в Германии, не могу упомянуть не упомянуть и о кризисном состоянии договора об обычных вооруженных силах в Европе. Адаптированный договор об обычных вооруженных силах в Европе был подписан в 1999 году. Он учитывал новую геополитическую реальность – ликвидацию Варшавского блока. С тех пор прошло 7 лет, и только 4 государства ратифицировали этот документ, включая Российскую Федерацию. Страны НАТО открыто заявили, что не ратифицируют договор, включая положение о фланговых ограничениях, о размещении на флангах определенного количества вооруженных сил, до тех пор, пока Россия не выведет свои базы из Грузии и Молдавии. Из Грузии наши войска выводятся, причем даже в ускоренном порядке. Эти проблемы мы с нашими грузинскими коллегами решили, и это всем известно. В Молдавии остается группировка в 1500 военнослужащих, которые выполняют миротворческие функции и охраняют склады с боеприпасами, оставшиеся со времен СССР. И мы с господином Соланой обсуждаем постоянно этот вопрос. Он знает нашу позицию. Мы готовы и дальше работать по этому направлению. Но что же происходит в это же самое время? А в это самое время в Болгарии и Румынии появляются так называемые легкие американские передовые базы по 5000 штыков в каждой. Получается, что НАТО выдвигает свои передовые силы к нашим государственным границам. А мы, строго выполняя договор, никак не реагируем на эти действия. Думаю, очевидно, процесс натовского расширения не имеет никакого отношения к модернизации самого Альянса или к обеспечению безопасности в Европе. Наоборот, это серьезно провоцирующий фактор, снижающий уровень взаимного доверия. И у нас есть справедливое право откровенно спросить, против кого это расширение. И что стало с теми заверениями, которые давались западными партнерами после распуска Варшавского договора? Где теперь эти заявления? О них даже никто не помнит. Но я позволю себе напомнить в этой аудитории. Хотел бы привести цитату из выступления генерального секретаря НАТО, господина Вернера, в Брюсселе 17 мая 1990 года. Он тогда сказал: «Сам факт, что мы готовы не размещать войска НАТО за пределами территории ФРГ, дает Советскому Союзу твердые гарантии безопасности». Где эти гарантии? Камни и бетонные блоки Берлинской стены давно разошлись на сувениры. Но нельзя забывать, что ее падение стало возможным в том числе и благодаря историческому выбору, в том числе нашего народа, народа России. Выбору в пользу демократии и свободы, открытости и искреннего партнерства со всеми членами большой европейской семьи. Сейчас же нам пытаются навязать уже новые разделительные линии, стены, пусть виртуальные, но все-таки разделяющие, разрезающие наш общий континент. Неужели вновь потребуются долгие годы и десятилетия, смена нескольких поколений политиков, чтобы разобрать и демонтировать эти новые стены? Уважаемые дамы и господа, мы однозначно выступаем и за укрепление режима нераспространения. Существующая международно-правовая база позволяет создать технологии по выработке ядерного топлива для использования его в мирных целях. И многие страны с полным на то основанием хотят создавать собственную ядерную энергетику, как основу их энергетической независимости. Но мы также понимаем, что эти технологии могут быть быстро трансформированы в получение оружейных материалов. Это вызывает серьезное международное напряжение. Яркий тому пример — ситуация с иранской ядерной программой. Если международное сообщество не выработает разумного решения этого конфликта интересов, мир и дальше будет потрясать подобные дестабилизирующие кризисы. Потому что пороговых стран больше, чем Иран, и мы с вами об этом знаем. Мы будем постоянно сталкиваться с угрозой распространения оружия массового уничтожения. В прошлом году Россия выступила с инициативой создания многонациональных центров по обогащению урана. Мы открыты к тому, чтобы подобные центры создавались не только в России, но и в других странах, где на легитимной основе существует мирная ядерная энергетика. государства, желающие развивать атомную энергетику, могли бы гарантированно получать топливо через непосредственное участие в работе этих центров, конечно же, под строгим контролем МАГАТЭ. С российским предложением созвучны и последние инициативы президента Соединенных Штатов Америки Джорджа Буша. Считаю, что Россия и США объективно и в одинаковой степени заинтересованы в ужесточении режимов нераспространения оружия массового уничтожения и средств его доставки. Именно наши страны, являющиеся лидерами по ядерному и ракетному потенциалу, должны стать и лидерами в разработке новых, более жестких мер в сфере нераспространения. Россия готова к такой работе, мы ведем консультации с нашими американскими друзьями. В целом речь должна идти о создании целой системы политических рычагов и экономических стимулов. Стимулов, при которых государства были бы заинтересованы не создавать собственные мощности ядерного топливного цикла, но имели бы возможность развивать атомную энергетику, укрепляя свой энергетический потенциал. В этой связи подробнее остановлюсь на международном энергетическом сотрудничестве. Госпожа федеральный канцлер тоже об этом коротко, но упомянула, затронула эту тему. В энергетической сфере Россия ориентируется на создание единых для всех рыночных принципов и прозрачных условий. Очевидно, что цена на энергоносители должна определяться рынком, а не являться предметом политических спекуляций, экономического давления или шантажа. Мы открыты для сотрудничества. Зарубежные компании участвуют в наших крупнейших энергетических проектах. По различным оценкам, до 26% добычи нефти в России, вот вдумайтесь в эту цифру, пожалуйста, до 26% добычи нефти в России приходится на иностранный капитал. Попробуйте привести мне пример подобного широкого присутствия российского бизнеса в ключевых отраслях экономики западных государств. Нет таких примеров. Таких примеров нет. Напомню также о соотношении инвестиций, поступающих в Россию и идущих из России в другие страны мира. Соотношение примерно 15:1. Вот вам зримый пример открытости и стабильности российской экономики. Экономическая безопасность – это сфера, где всем следует придерживаться единых принципов. Мы готовы честно конкурировать. Для этого у российской экономики появляется все больше возможностей. Такую динамику объективно оценивают эксперты и наши зарубежные партнеры. Так недавно был повышен рейтинг России в ОЭСР. Из 4-й группы риска наша страна перешла в 3-ю. И хотел бы, пользуясь случаем, здесь сегодня в Мюнхене, поблагодарить наших немецких коллег за содействие в принятии вышеназванного решения. Далее, как вы знаете, процесс присоединения России к ВТО вышел на финальную стадию. Отмечу, что в ходе долгих, непростых переговоров слова о свободе, мы не раз слышали слова о свободе слова, о свободе торговли, о равных возможностях, но почему-то исключительно применительно к нашему, к российскому рынку. И еще одна важная тема, прямо влияющая на глобальную безопасность. Сегодня много говорят о борьбе с бедностью. Что здесь происходит на самом деле? С одной стороны, на программы помощи беднейшим странам выделяются финансовые ресурсы, и подчас немаленькие финансовые ресурсы. Но по-честному, и здесь многие тоже это знают, зачастую под освоение компаниями самих же стран-доноров. Но в то же время, с другой стороны, в развитых странах сохраняются субсидии в сельском хозяйстве. Ограничивается для других доступ к высоким технологиям. И давайте называть вещи своими именами. Получается, что одной рукой раздается благотворительная помощь, а другой не только консервируется экономическая отсталость, а еще и собирается прибыль. Возникающее социальное напряжение в таких депрессивных регионах неизбежно выливаются в рост радикализма, экстремизма, подпитывает терроризм и локальные конфликты. А если все это вдобавок происходит, скажем, на Ближнем Востоке, в условиях обостренного восприятия внешнего мира как несправедливого, то возникает риск для глобальной дестабилизации. Очевидно, что ведущие страны мира должны видеть эту угрозу. и, соответственно, выстраивать более демократическую, справедливую систему экономических отношений в мире. Систему, дающую всем шанс и возможность для развития. Выступая на конференции по безопасности, уважаемые дамы и господа, нельзя обойти молчанием и деятельность Организации по безопасности и сотрудничеству в Европе. Как известно, она была создана, чтобы рассматривать все, я подчеркну это, все аспекты безопасности. Военно-политические, экономические, гуманитарные, причем в их взаимосвязи. Сегодня что мы видим на практике? Мы видим, что этот баланс явно нарушен. ОБСЕ пытаются превратить в вульгарный инструмент обеспечения внешнеполитических интересов одной или группы стран в отношении других стран. И под эту задачу вскроили и бюрократический аппарат ОБСЕ, который абсолютно никак не связан с государствами и учредителями. Вскроили под эту задачу процедуры принятия решений и использования так называемых неправительственных организаций. Формально, да, независимых, но целенаправленно финансируемых, а значит подконтрольных. Согласно основополагающим документам, в гуманитарной сфере ОБСЕ призвана оказывать странам-членам по их просьбе содействие в соблюдении международных норм в области прав человека. Это важная задача, мы ее поддерживаем, но вовсе это не означает вмешательство во внутренние дела других стран. Тем более не навязывание этим государствам того, как они должны жить и развиваться. Очевидно, что такое вмешательство отнюдь не способствует вызреванию подлинно демократических государств. И наоборот, делает их зависимыми и, как следствие, нестабильными в политическом и в экономическом плане. Мы рассчитываем на то, что ОБСЕ будет руководствоваться своими непосредственными задачами и выстраивать отношения с суверенными государствами на основе уважения, доверия.
The reason, therefore, that Israel is the biggest recipient of American aid and military support is because this hand called the House of Rothschild takes the money from the United States and hands it to this hand called Israel of the House of Rothschild and says thank you very much. The reason that there's no questioning of Israeli nuclear capability, that they get away literally with mass murder time and time again, is because the House of Rothschild also controls the countries of the European Union and controls the European Union. I mean, Tony Blair is a yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir, how high would you like me to jump sir, frontman for the House of Rothschild. So who do they put in after he left the British government as negotiator of peace in Israel? Tony bloody Blair. What should I say, Mr. Rothschild? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And that's it. So when you've got the same force controlling all these different agencies, then of course they're going to be coordinated. That's the way Israel gets away with what it gets away with. And if people think that's anti-Semitic, well, actually anti-Semitic means anti-Arab, by the way, then they'll have to take it and shove it somewhere where the sun don't shine. Because I ain't shutting up about this, because it's fundamental to understanding the world and to understanding the European Union and world events. The Jewish people, in general, have been mercilessly used by the House of Rothschild and their front secret society, satanic secret society called Zionism, as a front which they can hide behind. So it is House of Rothschild organizations like B'nai B'rith, Sons of the Covenant, who created an organization called the Anti-Defamation League, which goes around defaming everyone, ironically, who have not just campaigned for hate laws that stop you exposing these people, they've actually written the bloody legislation in America, in North America, and Canada. And so these hate laws, which say you can't say this, you can't say that because that's prejudice and all that, they're not there to protect gay people. Everyone to their own, I say, I can care less. they're not there to protect Jewish people or minorities. They're there simply to stop legitimate investigation of the Rothschilds and its network. That's what they're there for. And they are in so many ways the Rothschilds. At operational level, the center of the spider's web. And they need to be exposed, because if they get exposed and they go, when I say go, they are removed from their positions of power. Because, to be honest, if they went to jail for what they have been responsible for, the House of Rothschild, they would have to reincarnate hundreds of times to complete the sentence. And we've ignored them, or we've not ignored them. People have ignored their power for long enough because they've brilliantly hidden it. It needs the light shone on it, because when they come down, in so many ways, the House of Cards comes down. Thank you very much.